probably start off by offering up some commentary on how we got to where we are at the moment with understanding major accident hazards programme that we've actually designed and put together. We have a diagnostic that we use to measure care within cultures, and we've actually run it a significant amount of times now in the UK and internationally. The framework is up in the wall over here, and as part of the evidence gathering, there's perception elements of it, but there's also observation and interview elements in it as well. And we became aware after a period of time that there's quite a lot of information, a lot of knowledge and understanding around high probability, low consequence events. And when you actually start to talk to people that are working offshore, close to the valve, their understanding of these things is pretty decent. In some places it's very, very good. When you actually start to change the emphasis and start to have a conversation around the low probability, high consequence events, that's a completely different conversation and a completely different piece of feedback, if you get any at all in that regard. So as we started to analyse the diagnostics that was coming into us, when we were feeding the diagnostics back, most of the time that's to an onshore senior team. And they start to become worried and quite alarmed at the knowledge that's available that's not in that space. So we kind of turned our face in a couple of diagnostics that we've done to specifically look for evidence of knowledge and understanding around process safety hazards and the understanding of major accident hazards. And when we specifically went to look for the evidence, it was very difficult to find the understanding in the workplace. Now, why that actually became really quite interesting is because, as you know, sitting in the room with the safety case regulations and the COMA regulations, the information's already available to people. So it's not as if you're actually going to create something. It's something that's already there, but it's actually not being used in a proper manner. So some of the information and naming conventions, if you want, that started to occupy our space, if you want, in the oil and gas community, and we became aware of it in Southeast Asia a lot within the drilling community, is this concept of operationalising the safety case. So actually taking the content of the safety case and the COMA plans onshore and finding out whether they've been socialised properly into the workforce in such a way that influences decision-making and behaviour. More testing of that, going out to find out if that was the case, finding it really difficult to find evidence of that, to the point that one of our clients was at a meeting where the person who owned the COMA plan and was the most senior engineer within the organisation asked him directly if the COMA plan had been generated and put together to satisfy the regulator or whether it was to actually help shape people's thinking within the organisation. And without any hesitation, he responded to me by saying it was written for the regulator. So in that, taking that into consideration, then it shouldn't have been a surprise to us that those within the organisation weren't actually focused on that. So there's a couple of things that I want to land as to stimulate thought and perhaps actually get people to speak and think in a particular way. So we have the HSE at the moment is actually putting a lot of emphasis in this space about creating a process safety culture. So that's the narrative that's actually being used. And what we're actually trying to do at the moment is slightly twist that lens a wee bit to actually try and create a culture of process safety. It's a slightly different use of the phrase, but it's to get people to actually start talking about process safety, becoming familiar with the concepts of it, and then taking them to a place where they can actually functionally execute some skills and decision making around defending their asset against some of the most significant dangers that's been presented to it. We think within Optimus that this is something that's worth worrying about. So you can either sit and worry about it, or you can actually try and do something about it. And we decided to actually look at how we could influence the space by bringing some really well-formed thinking and some fantastic documents that are actually put together by the engineers in the city and operationalise them, get people to use them. So we actually set about designing the programme that we currently have, and it's got some key concepts within it. What we then do with that is we engage with the client, of which some are in the room at the moment, and then we actually take what they've got and blend it into these concepts so that when we do the training, we don't actually speak about it in a philosophical or conceptual manner. It's a very practical and pragmatic manner. So when people leave the training, they can go and functionally apply what they've learned in the field and become way more informed as a consequence. And I'm just going to share some of the things that we do as we take people through the programme and hopefully stimulate some conversation or maybe some questions.